Well, hello, and welcome to Juneteenth for everyone. Friends, I got a question for you. How will you celebrate Juneteenth this year? We've got a brand new United States holiday, and I hope that you are asking that question. Well, Make and Deepen Disciples is excited to equip you in commemorating Juneteenth in a meaningful way this year through a new collaboration with Our Daily Bread Ministries to provide free faith-based resources to celebrate Juneteenth in your home, in your church, and in your ministry. And this is something that I find very personally exciting because Juneteenth has a lot of potential to reflect powerful truths about faith and freedom that are birthed uniquely from the African American experience, but are relevant and enriching to everyone. Juneteenth also highlights the riches of Black faith, which over time has produced a faith stronger than suffering, which is something that we all need, isn't it? Today, I am thrilled to have a conversation with a new friend, Rasool Berry, and we're going to be exploring faith-based tools to celebrate Juneteenth, including a free, yes, I said free, devotional series, a documentary, and a film discussion guide, among other things that I can't wait to tell you about. My name is Michelle Sanchez, and I serve the Evangelical Covenant Church denomination as executive minister of Make and Deepen Disciples. And, the Evangelical Covenant Church, if you're not familiar with it, is a denomination, a vibrant multi-ethnic denomination of more than 900 churches throughout North America. I'm also the author of Color-Courageous Discipleship, Follow Jesus, Dismantle Racism, and Build Beloved Community. Again, I am so thrilled today to introduce you to Rasool Berry. Rasool, you can show, yes, there he is. There his beautiful face. I love it. Okay. Rasool Berry serves as teaching pastor at the Bridge Church in Brooklyn, New York. He's also the director of partnerships and content development with Our Daily Bread Ministries. Rasool graduated from the University of Pennsylvania with a bachelor's degree in Africana Studies and sociology. He is a sought-after writer on the intersection of faith and culture. He's the host of the Christianity Today sponsored podcast, Where Are You From? And the writer, producer, and host, I'm so excited about this, of the Juneteenth Faith and Freedom feature-length documentary. He lives in Brooklyn with his wife, Tamika, and their daughter. So good to have you today, Rasool.
So good to join you and to be able to talk about this exciting holiday that's just coming up about a month from today.
Amen to that. So Rasool, again, he is working with Our Daily Bread Ministries, and I'm sure many of you have heard of Our Daily Bread. The devotionals are everywhere. I grew up with them in my home and really enriched my faith growing up. They help millions of people connect with God each day. And for more than 75 years, their purpose has remained the same, which is to reach people with the life-changing wisdom of the Bible. Now, while that vision has not changed or shifted over time, I could not be more excited because they do have some new initiatives to reach today's diverse generation. And Voices is one of those initiatives. Voices amplifies the strength, struggles, and the courageous faith of Black image bearers of God. And Voices consists of a special collection of devotionals, books, films, and a podcast, all of which are highlighting Black voices. Now, let me tell you, I spoke with Rasool at the Mosaics Multi-Ethnic Conference, which happens every 3 years, this past November. I saw from a distance that Our Daily Bread had a table at Mosaics. I walked up. I said, first of all, wow, I grew up with Our Daily Bread. It's so fun to meet people from Our Daily Bread here. But two, I can't believe you're here. I was like, I just wouldn't put Our Daily Bread and multi-ethnic ministry together necessarily. And they said, "Oh, you need to hear about what we're working on today." And really, that is how I got to meet Rasool, to hear about their new Juneteenth devotional and film and a number of other initiatives, which again, we are so excited to share with you today. So, friends, our goal is to make sure to leave enough time. If you have questions about any of these resources that we're talking about, feel free to ask them at any point. If you're in Zoom, you can type them in the Zoom chat. If you're online, you can also just leave a comment on social media, and hopefully we'll see it. We're trying out some new technology today, and we'll answer as many questions as we can. But our goal today is to uncover the deep spiritual significance of America's newest federal holiday. Again, welcome, Rasool.
Thank you. That was a great introduction, by the way. You covered all the bases. You're good at this.
Oh, well, I'm just so delighted. So delighted today. Okay, so Rasool, why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about you? What's your background? Can you
Yep.
tell us how the Lord has brought you to this place?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Philadelphia, and came to faith at 17 years old, right between graduating from high school and starting up as a freshman in college, where I went to college in Philly as well. And throughout that time, I really wrestled with. Um, I was coming to terms with just understanding more about African American culture, the history of the country, and a lot of the spaces and people who I was around who really cared a lot about justice really were very critical of Christianity because of historical abuses and misuses of Christianity to justify the types of oppression that they were against. And so that was something I struggled with as I majored in Africana studies
Yeah.
and sociology. But as I continued to study the scripture and understand the history, I remember there was one key moment. It was African American literature class, and we were assigned in the syllabus to read the autobiography of Frederick Douglass and Harriet A. Jacobs. And what was clear in both of these texts, like Frederick Douglass at the end of his book, the appendix, he makes this entire part to say, just so you are clear, the things, harsh things that I said about Christianity or about my, was American distortions of Christianity. And he goes on to say, which is not the, Christianity of Christ, which I love, which is peaceable, which is true, which is giving me all these things. And so I was fascinated at the distinction that he was making in these very robust terms, and then seeing in the autobiography of Harriet A. Jacobs, in the narrative of a life of a slave girl, she was doing the same thing. And I was like, wow. And so I ended up writing a paper called The Gospel According to Frederick Douglass and Harriet A. Jacobs to kind of
Wow.
push back on some of these narratives. And so really from the very beginning of my faith journey, I saw how important it was, especially in my context with the people that I was wanting to reach with the gospel, that they understood that the primary response to those who encountered the transformative nature of Jesus was to push back against their oppression and to fight for justice. And so that is something that began to permeate my time as I started doing campus ministry myself, with Crew. And then as we transitioned to doing content development with Our Daily Bread, we really saw an opportunity. Even before Juneteenth became a national holiday, we were already working on creating spiritual content that connected the story of Juneteenth with just the importance of faith, the importance of resistance to injustice, the themes that we see replete in scripture, right? Old Testament and New Testament. And so that was an opportunity that we thought with, this is a story I didn't know a whole lot about. Growing up in Philly, I didn't celebrate Juneteenth. I, had barely heard of it. And what I did know was, or thought I knew, was often inaccurate. And so I was like, the dream would be to go to Galveston, Texas, to go to the original places and to talk to the people whose um, stories and whose ancestors kept this alive because they were the ones that were emancipated. And so that's what we endeavored to do with Juneteenth Faith and Freedom is we met up and reached out to those who are like the great grandchildren of those who were emancipated on June 19th, 1865. And what you find is that this rich, robust faith tradition has continued to be passed down that connects in their understanding with their deliverance with what God did on that day. So they're celebrating a divine deliverance that they believe is an important part of the story. The first Juneteenth celebration takes place at a church. And so we just wanted to tell that story and to do it well. And fortunately, we've been able to do that and to kind of get the word out.
There is so much I love about your journey. And, I also really came to a deeper place in faith while in college. Like, I
Mm,
feel like that is such a petri dish of both being challenged, right? Often, you're being challenged with truth, things that are true or at least partially true,
right.
and then making sense of them, through the lens of faith. And so it can be a refiner's fire, or at least it was that for you. And I rejoice. I rejoice for that because, as you said, Africana studies can potentially be just pure deconstruction.
Oh,
But
I mean, yeah.
right?
That was a lot of the people who were my professors or fellow majors or students that was where they were. And but what was interesting was the deeper commitment I made to the scriptures, the more I realized that there was more than enough of a rich tradition of connecting the dots between our understanding that being made in God's image with the understanding of how that truth, that fundamental truth, transformed people's understanding of themselves and their reaction to what to do in the world and how to have hope in the midst of just incredibly difficult circumstances.
Ah, and so, in some ways, we have a project of rediscovering, that rich
Mhm.
well of tradition, of faith that is stronger than suffering. Because, as you said, there's already more than enough, which is a great segue to talk a little bit about voices. Okay.
Yes.
So, many people have heard of Our Daily Bread, but not
Hmm.
as many have heard of the new Voices initiative of Our
Yep.
Daily Bread. So, could you tell us a little bit about voices?
Yes. So Voices has been around officially since 2018, and it exists to amplify the voices of Black Christian content creators and to help people see stories of faith that they can relate and connect with. And so, for example, a study was done recently to show the paucity of Christian children's books where Black children are even seeing themselves in those books, right? And so, from very early on, it's important for children to be able to identify themselves in the story. And so we started creating children's books that were beautifully illustrated by an award-winning illustrator and artist, Jan Gilchrist, to kind of capture that story. But in addition to that, the story of faith in the historical Black church. So we began to do devotional booklets, often themed around Black History Month, to honor and to celebrate and to draw inspiration and insight from that legacy that had always combined faith with justice and a holistic view of the human person, which, and I think a lot of ways in our more evangelical context, it's in some ways being rediscovered, but was part of the tradition all the way around, all the way through. And so by necessity. And so we highlight that through devotional booklets, but then we also do actual books. I'm gonna pull out one right here. We have a book by Dr. Carrie Lattimore, who actually just went to be with the Lord last year. He's in the Juneteenth film, but he wrote a book. This is a great book. It's called Unshakable Faith, African American Stories of Redemption, Hope, and Community.
That's
And
amazing.
oh, it's a great book. And he was a historian and a seminary professor and pastor. And so he has this great way of helping us understand people in history like Phyllis Wheatley or Lot Carey or all of these folks from the past and the present, and helping weave in biblical stories to help us understand them. So we have stuff like that. And then
Russell, just
yes.
one more time, hold that book up. Tell us the title because
Yeah.
I just really want people to be aware of this resource.
Yes.
Unshakable Faith. And
Yes.
the subtitle again.
African American Stories of Redemption, Hope, and Community.
Beautiful. Thank you so
Yep.
much.
Yeah, and you can find it on our website. All these resources you can find on experiencevoices.org. But so we have that. We have a podcast that you mentioned that I host, Where You're From. Juneteenth, the film, devotional booklets on Juneteenth as well that we just created. Now, this was the one from last year. This is the one that's brand new for this year. We have these created in both print and in digital formats that are accessible, because sometimes we run out, or some people just prefer to do their devotional reading now on their devices. And so
Now, Rasool, how much does that cost if I want to get that Devo?
we offer these resources free of charge without financial obligation. Now, folks want to bless us with a donation to help us continue to reach more people. We would love that, because even though we offer them without financial obligation, it definitely costs money to create. But we do this because we want the word of God to be able to go out to as many people as possible. So all that to say, we have devotionals, books, podcasts, films, and I'd be remiss if I forgot the Juneteenth Faith and Freedom original soundtrack. We have a whole album featuring people like Lecrae, Sho Baraka, to Christian rappers. We have some poetry in it and some gospel music as well. And so all of those things we've made available to help people be equipped to celebrate Juneteenth.
Oh my goodness. So exciting. Okay, so while we're talking about voices, I have a few examples here myself that I'll hold up for everyone. Now, I'm building a little collection. I'm totally a fangirl here. But all of these you can find at the Our Daily Bread site, and most of them probably on Amazon or wherever books are sold as well. This one here, this is called Tell the Story, and the subtitle, 40 Devotions with Reflections on Black History. This is a Voices devotional. So every day you can find fodder for your faith from the treasures of Black history and heritage. They do Bible studies. Okay, see, let me make
It's
sure you
blurred.
can.
There it is. There it is.
That's
You
good.
got it.
This one is called Journey to Freedom, Discovering the God of Deliverance. And it's by Natasha Sistrunk Robinson. It is an Exodus Bible study. And I just started digging into this. It is absolutely fantastic. Natasha is an international speaker, leadership consultant, and diversity coach. She's African American and stellar when it comes to discipleship, all things discipleship. And then this one, this is called Navigating the Blues. It's a 90-day devotional by Katara Washington Patton, Where to Turn When Worry, Anxiety, or Depression Steals Your Hope. Okay, so all of these are by Black authors working with Our Daily Bread to share the riches of Black faith with everyone. And so, again, I'm just so excited about what you all are doing with Voices. Okay, so let's see. So we're talking about Juneteenth. And can you just say a little bit more for me? So Juneteenth is a secular holiday. It's a secular holiday, meaning, it's for everybody. It's not a religious holiday.
Sure.
But Our Daily Bread did decide to produce faith-based resources around Juneteenth. And so yet again, what is that connection? And, we're trying to pose some kind of connection there, right?
Yes. So, really, even with the name of the ministry, Our Daily Bread, right? Which there's this idea that comes from even the Lord's Prayer, where Jesus invites us and instructs us even to pray for provision for the day. And we believe that each day, all 365 of them and 366 on the leap year, have spiritual significance. And there are areas in which we get this, right? Like you don't have to stretch to go when it becomes like Thanksgiving and they're like, okay, this is a secular holiday, but the principle of giving thanks is very biblical, right? And so we do things, and share and even pray and invoke the Psalms as we are with family to and connecting about giving thanks. Another thing is when it comes to New Year's. How many times as a church do we
Right.
go, hey, we're coming New Year, new me? You know what I mean? Like, and even though there is no biblical framework, there was a whole different calendar in the Bible. Jewish calendar based on the lunar calendar, which is a whole different new year. We still see value in that secular day being an opportunity for us to think about the blessings of the past, what we're praying for in the future. So in the same way, we think that
Yeah.
there are opportunities with every day that exists for us to reflect and think about. And then on top of that, that would be true of anything. But on top of that, this is a day that the initial response to the news was for folks to go into a church and worship, right? And even to this day, there are Juneteenth celebrations that are connected with the church. And so we think when it comes to the themes of freedom, when it comes to the themes of justice, when it comes to the theme of racial reconciliation, that all of those themes are ones that are really the Bible affirms and that connects with and invites us to really expand as an expression of the gospel. This is part of Jesus's mission. And so what Juneteenth gives us, it's not an obligation by any stretch, but it is an opportunity to lean in, to use this day to simultaneously reflect on the sins of the past that have caused that division, because the racial divide of today didn't just get here by accident or happenstance. It is very much part of the legacy of the past. And so that sense of repentance, that sense of, renewal is something that just gives us an opportunity to lean into. It gives us an opportunity to also move forward, to think about what does it look like? What are the lessons from Juneteenth that are still relevant for us today? So all of that are opportunities, and look at what it's given us an opportunity to do as a church, to lead out, because it's so new and people are still figuring out. We can actually be a model for the rest of the country of how to think redemptively about this day and how we can do that, because it's a pretty blank slate. I mean, it's 2 years old for most of the country that's outside of Texas, Louisiana, and a few other pockets that were celebrating it. And so what great opportunity that the Lord has given us to be able to say we have a story to tell here, just like when it's Martin Luther King Day, and we can say we have a story to tell that, yes, is about justice, but also about a pastor who was living out an aspect of what he thought the Bible was teaching him. And so those are all the things that are why we think it's a great opportunity to lean into for everybody, Black, white, Latino, Asian, indigenous, immigrant, whoever, to be a part of this opportunity to celebrate and to reflect.
I absolutely love that invitation that you just gave us. It was a challenge and an invitation that the church has an opportunity to lead out. We have an opportunity. This is a brand new holiday,
Yeah.
and everyone's still trying to figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
And so we have an opportunity to tell a redemptive story, to tell God's redemptive story, what
Yep.
God, thinks about the racial challenges we have faced and continue to face, what God is doing about it through
Mm.
Christ and through his church, how we can join in with that. And also, what is the difference between a kind of cultural Christianity and biblical Christianity, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
every culture has work to do in that area. And so it provides kind of a normal and natural opportunity to engage in all of those things. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I would love to see the church lead on what it means to celebrate Juneteenth. Okay, so I really want to make sure that everyone who is listening in understands what the devotional series is, where they can get it, all those kind of details, as well as the film. Let's do the film first,
Okay.
shall we?
Let's
Because
do it.
it's so exciting. So shall we start with our little trailer first?
Let's run it.
Paper says the police couldn't control the mob.
Wait, hold on. So the 500 people that gathered, this wasn't a Juneteenth celebration.
Not by a long shot.
Was what happened on June 19th, 1865 in Texas really the end of slavery in America?
Slavery, at its essence, is control. And so what happens in the South is a struggle to control.
The mentality of the state seemed to have been, we're not going to let them go.
You can miss the humanity when you emphasize 10 million slaves, right? We want to talk about someone's son, someone's daughter.
And on June 19th, 1865, somebody got freedom. Somebody's child got freedom. Somebody's mama got freedom. Somebody's grandmama got freedom. And when that happened, that's like an Exodus experience all over again.
You can just imagine. You find out you're free, there's a party on every corner, of course. But then there was the reality. What next?
What does Juneteenth reveal about the nature of the struggle for freedom? How did a Bible that was used to justify slavery become an inspiration for liberation?
I say, hey, we should care about the poor. Yes, amen. Hey, we should care about the marginalized. Yes, amen. Hey, we should care about injustice for Black people. Whoa, brother. You're going too far. And it crushed me.
This is not just a story for Texans or for those like me seeking to connect with their roots. Juneteenth is the story of faith's power to overcome suffering, good to overcome evil, and how a people's fight for freedom was delayed but could not be denied.
Here I come.
Don't sound like you're slowing down any at all.
There's work to do.
Yes. So that's the
That's got to be
trailer.
my favorite preview of the year.
Yep.
Tell us
Yep.
more. Tell us more.
Yes. So one of the things that we wanted to do with this and why we made it available on YouTube last year when we first produced it was to make it as accessible as possible. And we've also been sharing this with various film festivals that are highly selective and that have really celebrated it with us. So we've now, even since this slide has been created, there's a couple other laurels that we could add to it that have been the Dallas International Film Festival, Cleveland International Film Festival, where we won the Student Choice Award, Heartland, Denton Black Film Festival in Austin as well we've been to, and we next month are going to a couple more. And so really excited about that. But this is a part I really want to make interactive, because one of the things that we've done is to basically give you the opportunity to do screenings where you are. And we have a whole system make that happen. But this is the kind of rationale of this deck. And so, as you can see here, we talk about celebrating Juneteenth and the fact that we've prepared these resources to help you to do it with this one-of-a-kind documentary. And we just highlight the fact that celebrating Juneteenth is an opportunity to embrace themes of unity amongst diversity. And we offer some practical steps to build diverse community and authentic dialogue through the film. So you already know, we would say the starting point is to watch the film. It's 75 minutes long, and you just saw some great clips about it. It features Miss Opal Lee, who was a 2022 Nobel Peace Prize nominee, who rose awareness in her 90s, marching all over the country and talking about Juneteenth. She's at 96 and she keeps a busier schedule than me. This woman is amazing. So she's in it, as well as Lecrae, the two-time Grammy award-winning artist who's grew up in Texas, celebrating Juneteenth, and talks about his journey with the connection of faith and liberation. After the film, we encourage people to host a discussion. Barbecue is kind of the food of choice for Texans on Juneteenth, and red velvet cake and all the kind of red things that they do, red soda. But you could offer that, or just simply have a discussion, 20 to 30 minutes, and we even provide the questions, so you can just have a host that kind of can encourage conversation, which really deepens the experience. Because what a film does is it allows everyone in the room to have a shared experience around the topic, and it creates the opportunity to move forward on something. We also have the music. We encourage people to, play the music on the way in. The original soundtrack, Juneteenth, Faith and Freedom, you can find on wherever you get your streaming music titles. Sho Baraka and Lecrae created new songs for this project, and it is dynamic, as well as I mentioned some spoken word poetry and some gospel. And then before people leave, let them know about the devotionals. And if you order ahead of time, you can actually, get them. And I'll tell you, ahead of time means if you order by May 26th, right? So you still got about a week, we can guarantee that they'll get there by Juneteenth. And this is a 10-day devotional, which is a companion to the film in print and digital forms. And offering them as they leave is a great way to encourage, folks to get really biblical insights and learn more about the holiday. So you can share that. And you can order those on our website as well, experiencevoices.org. And then there's a podcast that's coming up next week on Where You're From, a special Juneteenth episode where I talk to Yaki Smith, the director of Juneteenth, Faith and Freedom, who's also an award-winning filmmaker and a professor at University of Texas. Yeah, we just want to, so this is all part, and we have a Google Drive where you can access all of the things. So if you go, wait, that was too fast, don't worry about it. Just go on the website, sign up, and then we'll give you all the things that you need to really use this for some momentum moving forward. And as we've already talked about, this is part of the Voices collection, which amplifies God's goodness, guidance, and help to us. And so we encourage you to continue to explore Voices as well. So this is my email address, rasool.berry@odb.org. But like I said, you don't have to even just email me directly. You just go to Experience Voices, click on the link, discover, and then you just fill out the form, and you will get everything that you need. The licensing form. We ask people for a licensing fee of $100, but if you're not in a position to cover that, we will waive that fee. But basically, what part of why we're asking for a form and fee is because to help people with screening, you don't want to rely on YouTube. So what we're doing is we give you the actual digital copy of this award-winning film electronically. So we want to make sure that those forms are filled out for that. But you can use it as many times as you want. So all you have to do is fill out the form once, and you can use it 2 times, 3 times, however many that are there. So that's the story of how you can get involved. And I would love to hear any questions that you might have about either the hows, the whys, whatever, because this is what we're here to do.
Wow. Okay. So let me first clarify something. So the documentary, people can actually view the documentary on YouTube, right? Like,
right now.
Yeah, they can find it. So either go to the links that we've been sharing today, the Voices link, the Juneteenth link that we've been sharing, or you can search it up on YouTube, and you can view the entire documentary there. However, if you are going to do a screening, if you're going to do a screening and show it to the folks in your church, it would probably be helpful to have the original file. In which case, then yes, go ahead and apply for that. But I feel like $100, that's pretty reasonable in terms of a forever licensing fee, essentially.
Yeah,
So
and it also includes promotional material. So you don't have to worry about bothering your graphic design team with social media posts, posters. Our graphic design team has already created those. And so you will get a link to all the forms or and the posters and the images that you can use to just plug and play and just start promoting it through what we've already designed for you.
so great. So great. So again, what the vision that is being cast here is, Juneteenth is coming up. What's one way you can celebrate? You can have a screening. You can have a film screening, have an event, serve some refreshments or something, have the playlist. They got a special playlist. Have that playlist playing as people come in. Enjoy that film together. And then there's a whole guide of questions ready for you to use and to really encourage and spark great faith-based discussions around Juneteenth. So I love it. I hope we see a whole number of those happening this year because of this conversation today in Covenant churches. We do have a question that's come in. I want to ask you this question. Would this documentary be appropriate for kids if we were to make this a family event? And if not, what ages would be the best target audience?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the best way I could answer that is to have you watch it, and kind of make that determination. I can tell you there's like no profanity, there's nothing like that. There are, um, discussions about the Ku Klux Klan and even showing clips from the birth of a nation. There's discussion of some of the difficulties and the hardships and the brutality of slavery, because in order for us to really appreciate freedom, we have to know what people were freed from. And so I think that depending on when you feel like that's most appropriate to share with those students or those young people, that's kind of a good barometer, and I would say you would know best. I know that from our standpoint, we've seen high school kids, middle school kids really resonate very strongly with this. But yeah, I would say check it out, and then you'll be able to make the best determination for your things. But I know just anecdotally, you mentioned Natasha Sistrunk Robinson from the Journey to Exodus, the Bible study book. She shared last year. She had me on her Instagram live and said that they were doing this as a family event. They were watching this together. They were bringing everybody together for Juneteenth, and she said that it went really well. So I think that it does create an opportunity when you can expose children to some of those things, but also be able to talk with them about what they are seeing and whatnot. But yeah. So I think it can definitely work in a family setting.
And again, you can go ahead and preview the documentary on YouTube and check that out. But I was also going to agree with you. I feel like middle school and up is probably who will resonate with most. Keep their for attention span and also the depth of the material. So very good, very exciting. So, gosh, you have already mentioned a couple of things about the film, but you're achieving some really exciting things with the film. What's some news you can share with us?
Absolutely. So I mentioned, winning the Student Choice Award, which is so great. I got to tell you, of all the different types of awards to win, and we, it's a special thing because it was for high school students. And so what happened was they are bussed into the film festival at Cleveland, and they get to see multiple films that are appropriate for them, and they vote. It was like 4 different ones, and to get high school students to vote for you, that was pretty special.
Well, there you go. It answers the question also, right? Like, who's this resonating with? High schoolers loved it.
But at the same time, we've screened at college campuses as well. We have a partnership with Crew, the campus ministry, that they are planning on working with us to do a tour, as well as the Coalition of Christian Colleges and Universities. Next month, we'll be at Texas Southern University at HBCU in Houston. In addition to those things, we won the 2023 Wilbur Award, which is almost 100-year organization that awards people for faith-based content in the public sphere, right? That deals with those themes. So that was significant. And we've recently worked on a deal to make this available to PBS stations around the country. So we're working with local PBS stations to put it air. Now, this is where you can get involved too. You want to see it on your local PBS station. Call them up, email them, hit them up, say, hey, where's Juneteenth Faith and Freedom? I want to see that. But we've already, have it on scheduled in the Dallas-Fort Worth area on KERA on Juneteenth at 9 p.m. So we're really excited about that program and that opportunity to reach the fourth largest market in the country, in Texas especially. So this is just the beginning, so we're looking forward to seeing what having the film available on public broadcast will do for its reach and getting the story out.
So that prompts me to encourage everyone listening in today. Don't just think of this film and even this holiday as an opportunity for discipleship, but also making disciples, for outreach.
Yeah.
Because when I found out this was going to be on PBS, it was just so exciting to me because it's going to reach such a large audience, people who may be interested in Juneteenth, but then also now we have an open door in talking about the faith tradition of Juneteenth to share a little bit about that too, right? And hopefully pique people's interest in how to develop a faith stronger than suffering, to get to know this God that loves them so much, to support them in that. And so it has such incredible potential. And I think Christians and those who are not yet following Jesus, it's something that could interest both.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I just tell you a quick story on that. So when we did a screening at Anderson University in Indiana and a few months ago, and the film professors were really excited to get their film students there because they wanted to model for them what it looked like to engage in, places, especially because, this was in Indiana and we had screened at Heartland Film Festival, which is based in Indiana. And so they had a lot of street cred because folks were like, I want my film to be at Heartland, right? And so we hosted it. They were very engaged. They stayed afterwards to line up to have Q&A. And one of the students, African-American student, stuck around and said, hey, I need to ask you. And I think because of what you making this, that you shoot straight with me. Can I be Black and Christian at the same time? Like he has family members who were in a Hebrew Israelite and other traditions, and that were challenging him that his faith was incompatible with his ethnic identity. And so I was able to, share with him the film, but also my own journey. And he left encouraged and affirmed in his faith, and as a result. And so to your point, it was just such a reminder about the types of conversations that are happening out there and how valuable it is to contribute something that can help deepen someone's own perspective and convictions. Because even if these things aren't, like, you're not struggling with them, there are definitely, especially in the younger generation, this is the topic, this is the issue that is more than anything else causing people to wrestle with their faith and even deconstruct it or abandon it altogether. And so it was very significant to have that encounter with him. And I think that there's going to be many more like it.
Oh, I agree. Hey, what was your favorite part of making this film?
My favorite part was definitely talking to the descendants of those who were emancipated on Juneteenth. It made it real.
Wow.
It's one thing to hear like this day, but like it's another thing and the thing that was so fascinating to me was I had never been around like people who knew their family story so well. Like for me, it gets fuzzy after grandparents. Like, okay, I know my great grandparents.
Me too.
But like for them, there's something about the collective moment that day represented when you had thousands of people emancipated on the same day, that really developed and cultivated, almost like when you see in Exodus, where like there's the Passover, and to remind the people, this is what the Lord your God did to deliver you out of Egypt. Do this as a remembrance every year. And this is like that, where there's this collective identity and sense of who they are, and sense of what God did in their lives. That's like a stone of remembrance that continues to be passed on from generation to generation. And that was just very inspiring to see that connection, because I don't know when my family passed over from enslavement to freedom. Like, I don't know that story, right? But they do. And so it is cool. It was very, like, it made it so much more real to me to see how much it meant to them.
Well, we can live vicariously through you.
Yes.
As we watch this film. Okay. So let's talk about that devotional again. And if you could hold up this year's devotional, you've got it there, right? Yep. And it's called Freedom for All, right?
Freedom for All. Yes. 10 devotions celebrating Juneteenth.
Right. Okay. And so, of course, whether or not folks do a film screening, they can access these devotionals as well.
Yep.
And it's 10 days. And essentially, what kinds of devotionals are in there? Like, roughly, what can people find inside?
Yeah. So the thing that's really cool about it is it's a very much a wide spectrum. So some of them actually quote reflections from the film, and that point back to a scripture, and is a reflection on that. There's another part where you'll see a quote. There's a song you have to listen to on the album. It's called "Tell Pharaoh," and you can just even hear from the name "Tell Pharaoh" that there's this connection being made between the Exodus story, but also it's a whole Juneteenth song. Now, let me ask you, Michelle, prior to this album, how many songs have you heard that talk about Juneteenth that you can name?
No, none.
Yeah, it just doesn't exist. And so we have a whole album, like, and it's Christian content. So like, so there's a reflection on the meditation and the connection between faith and freedom that is there, that was made, because one of the like, just on a straight up like Bible nerd standpoint, when I found out that one of the early names of Juneteenth was Jubilee Day, my mind was like, oh my gosh, because Jubilee in Leviticus 25 was the festival that was the Sabbath of Sabbaths. I call it the Super Sabbath.
Yeah.
And in that Super Sabbath, is supposed to reflect and represent all of what it meant for God's kingdom to be fully manifested on earth. And so as a result of that, it was this holy reset button where anybody that had debts, those debts would be forgiven. Anybody who was therefore an indentured servant or enslaved, they would be set free. Anybody who had to mortgage their home or their future, those lands were returned. And it was this, and as a result of that, they called it Jubilee, because it was celebration. Because what would you do if you woke up today and every single debt that you have was free? Like, it would be like partying. And the fact that they made that connection so early to their own experience and called it Jubilee Day when they were freed was so rich to me. And so the devotional really deepens some of those connections. And what does it mean to celebrate? And like it tells us, right, that we should weep with those who weep and rejoice with those who rejoice. And this gives us an opportunity to do that.
So let's talk about, you got print and you have an electronic version. Okay. So first of all, with print, roughly how many copies have been ordered by this point?
Oh my God.
I heard about this recently.
Well, as of last week, it was about 130,000 copies. We made a print run of about 200,000. So, I know I ordered 400 just, last week for an event that we're doing at my church here in New York. So that number is probably dwindling right now, but no, it's been exciting to see that people. Last year we ran out of the Juneteenth devotionals because, again, they're unique, and there's nothing else out there. So
I can testify. Last year I got in there late. I tried to order a copy and I never got one, my friend.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, people, listen, if you're interested in this devotional, please don't delay. Place an order today. And I also want to tell you something very special, very special. So I talked to my friends at Our Daily Bread. I've got a few friends there now. And what they said is that they're going to save copies of this devotional just for the covenant. So when you're filling out the form of, the address or whatever, just make sure somewhere in there you mention the covenant, mention that the name of the church in the address line or something, mention that you are a covenant church, because they're looking for that, and they are saving some, for us. Now, Rasool, you also did mention a date. You said order by May 26th to guarantee, right, that you receive the devotional in time for Juneteenth, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, again, you can still order after that. We just not sure if, exactly it'll get there. So, just to be clear. And
Yeah.
yeah. And also, you shared the link to last year's yeah, devotional reading plan. So I just kind of
Oh, that's not good.
yeah. I mean, it's still a devotional. I did like that. It was a lot neater than this, like the short link than the longer one that I put in the private chat. But maybe that can just be offered for
Okay,
the
so
people.
yeah, let's also let's make sure that we share the link to this year's devotional. And this is also where you can read the electronic version, right? We can see the reading
Yeah,
plan.
the link that link is for the reading plan, not for there's a different link for the the order form to get the physical copies. Yeah.
You got it. Okay, well, we're gonna make sure to get all these links to everybody.
Great.
Okay. All right, so we just have a few minutes left, and I wonder, when it comes to Juneteenth, what kind of encouragements you have, for churches, individuals, for white people, for people of color, what kinds of thoughts or
Yeah.
reflections might you
Yeah.
offer?
One question we get often, from folks who are really just wanting to honor people and do it the right way is, hey, I'm not Black. What does it look like for me to, celebrate this day, but it not feel like appropriation? We've had some high profile misses last year with corporations that just kind of didn't strike the right tone with, it felt more like commercialism than it did a sensitive honoring. And so, I think with that, I'll say two things. Like, one, the scriptures tell us to be uh, slow to speak and quick to listen. And I think somebody has said that's why we have two ears and one mouth.
Yeah.
We're supposed to listen twice as long. And so I do think that um, being able, this opportunity gives us is a space with those close to us where we can say, hey, I just went to this webinar, heard about this resource. I'm not Black, but I want to be able to make space and hold space for folks of all walks of life. And I think this would be a great thing to do. And maybe you engage with somebody, in the African American community, say, hey, could we host this together? Right? Like, could we do something where we, what would you think about that? Could I get your opinion about that? And so, kind of practicing that aspect of listening. I think watching the film, first of all, is an aspect of that listening, right? Of hearing the stories and being informed about why this matters. The other thing is, we're in a time of great despair and anxiety in our world. And so hope is something that is in short supply, but is in very much high demand. And this film offers hope. Like, one of the things that the filmmaker Yaki Smith held together beautifully is the hard facts of history with the ongoing inspiring story that's still unfolding, that there are things that we can celebrate. There is progress that has been made, and that should fuel us for more to do. And so I think that those are the opportunities that exist, to not be afraid of those conversations, but to lean into them. And just even start locally, just start with your own family, do like Natasha did and just host, just say, hey, we're going to just keep it, intimate this year, and just, maybe you do it that way. You don't have to be as big as a public event. But all that to say is, I think, let it bless you with hope, with inspiration, with our understanding that that there's a story that God is telling through all of our experiences, even when those experiences involve suffering. I love what you say, that a faith that is stronger than suffering, and that definitely is what Juneteenth reminds us is possible.
So this, again, we have been having a conversation today with Rasool Berry, and we are talking about how Juneteenth is for everyone. And it reminds us how to develop a faith that is stronger than suffering, as well as how we can join with God to keep the kingdom coming as we move forward.
Amen.
So Rasool, thank you again. Rasool is Director of Partnerships and Content Development with Our Daily Bread Ministries. And I'm Michelle Sanchez, author of Color-Courageous Discipleship. We hope that this has equipped you and blessed you with solid resources to have a meaningful Juneteenth this year. Blessings, everyone, on your day, and joyous Juneteenth.
Take care.